Hi there, I'm Amanda Castor with Material Girl Quilts. Today I'm here to share with you a new tutorial for one of the most popular quilts on my website, the Jelly Roll Rail Fence. The quilt behind me I made a couple of years ago using 2 jelly rolls. Now jelly rolls are essentially packages of 2.5 inch by width of fabric strips. Some manufacturers call them jelly rolls, some call them roly-poly. Each manufacturer calls them something different, but essentially it's just a package of 2.5 inch by width of fabric strips, and it usually comes with 40 per package. So the quilt behind me I used 2 jelly rolls because I needed 78 strips total for the quilt. And the quilt we're going to make today, I need 36 strips, so we just need 1 jelly roll. Let's get started. So the jelly roll I'm using today is called Strawberry Honey by Gracie Larson, and it's these cute, it's a much different, going to be a lot different from the one behind me because it's filled with these bright colors, very springy. And the first thing I do when I open the jelly roll is separate the strips out by color. They're usually packaged where they have each of the colors together, and then I just simply separate them out. Once you have them all split up by color, what you need to do is create strip sets. And the sets will have 3 2.5 inch strips per set. So when we create the sets, what I prefer to do is to make sure that I have 3 different colors and also 3 different prints within the set. So for example, I can grab this green floral and maybe this pink here that has cute little bears on it. And if I want to do the red, as you see, these 2 are the same print. They're just different colors. So I will skip that one and maybe grab this strawberry print. And so once you have all your strips laying out and then start putting them into strip sets, it helps you if you do this ahead of time before you start sewing, so you can make sure that you have your colors and the prints evenly distributed throughout the sets. So once you have done that, and for the small quilt you'll have again 13 different strip sets, what you'll do is you take 3 strips within each set and then sew them together using a 1/4 inch seam on the long ends. So this will finish at 6.5 inches wide by the width of fabric. And once these are sewn together, you're then going to cut them into your blocks. And so I happen to have a 6.5 inch square ruler, which is perfect for this. If you don't have one of those, you can, but you have another ruler that's at least 6.5 inches wide, you can use that. Or if you don't even have a ruler that's quite 6.5 inches wide, line it up on your cutting mat, start at 0 and trim off your selvage, and then go in 6.5 inches, cut, and then another 6.5 inches and go from there. But since I have the 6.5 inch square ruler, that's what I'm going to use to cut. And what I prefer to do when I'm cutting, because as you see the edges of these still have the pinked edges, so they may not be perfectly straight on the top and bottom. So I prefer to line the ruler up along one of these seam lines to make sure that it is straight. So you'll start by trimming off the selvage. Oops. And then cut at 6.5 inches, and there's a block. So you continue to do this along your strip set every 6.5 inches, and you will cut a total of 6 blocks from each set. And then you can either, with this leftover, you can either trim them up, the selvage off, and use those to piece into something else, or you can just toss the leftover there. So from each strip set, you will wind up with 6 total blocks. And when we go to lay out the quilt, you will then select your blocks, and for the top row, it doesn't matter if you start with your rail fences going to the side or up and down. You just, whichever way you decide to start, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that the next block you lay is going the opposite direction. So for the small quilt that we're making here today, you will have 9 rows of 8 blocks each. So you'll continue to spread these out, or lay these out, rotating the blocks every other one, and then your next row, you do the same thing and rotate your block so that if it started going side to side, the next block is up and down. And you just continue along going the same way. So again, for this smaller quilt, you will have a total of 9 rows with 8 blocks per row. And then for the larger quilt, you will have 13 rows with 12 blocks per row. So I'm going to go ahead, finish sewing these strip sets together, get my blocks completed, and I'll show you the finished quilt. Now, as a recap, for the small quilt, it will finish at 48 inches by 54 inches. You will use 1 jelly roll or 36 2.5-inch strips. You will make a total of 72 blocks, and you will lay the blocks out in 9 rows of 8 blocks each. For the large quilt, it will finish at 72 inches by 78 inches. You will need 2 jelly rolls or 78 2.5-inch strips. You will make a total of 156 blocks, and you will lay the blocks out in 13 rows of 12 blocks each. In the video description below, I will have a link to the printable pattern as well as links to materials I used to make this quilt. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button and subscribe, as well as the bell to be notified when new tutorials go live. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.